Hi, this is Tom from 2 Cave Aquatics again, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, especially the last one or two, I just took the time to, I guess, introduce myself a little bit, divulge some things, whatever you want to call it. Not sure why, I just thought I would do that, so you know a little bit about the person behind the camera. Life hasn't always been roses and peaches and cream, but you know, nobody's usually is all the time. And you know, what are you gonna do? You make the best of it. Unfortunate series of events. Even though I didn't have a firearm, I did not accost or rob anyone. A couple people that I was with when I was 17 hitchhiking did, and I was caught along with them. They robbed a bar in Florida, about 35 people in it. I was caught along with them, and I spent 10.5 months in the county jail. I turned 18 there, and the day for sentencing came. We went in front of the judge, the guys I got caught with and myself. They were given 150 years in prison for what they did that night. While they were there, I was in the back of the pickup truck. I was kind of wasted. They were in there for a long time that night, and I didn't really know what was going on, so I got out of the truck and I went in. They were robbing the place, and one of them was yelling and screaming at a pregnant woman that was there with her friends that night. I don't think she was drinking, but she was there with her friends. And he threatened her, basically to end her, and I stepped in between him, the 12 gauge he had, and I stepped in between him and that pregnant lady. She was about 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time, I think. And I picked her up off the floor, sat her in a chair, got her a glass of water, told her I wouldn't let anything happen to her. The guys finally left, and I mean, I don't know what I was gonna do. I left with them, and so they got caught later. Anyway, they got 150 years that day in court, and the judge told me to stand up for my sentencing. It was on my 18th birthday, and when I did, a lady was there in the courtroom. Some lady was there in the back of the courtroom. She spoke up and asked the judge if she could say something, and he said, you know, it was a little unusual, but you know, go ahead. And she pointed at me and she said, I don't want to see this young kid spend 150 years in prison. He saved my life that night. He saved the life of my unborn child, and he defeated both of us, and I feel we're both alive today because of him. And the judge, instead of giving me 150 years like the other two, he gave me 15 years, even though I didn't rob anyone. I didn't commit a crime that night. I was just a runaway from home as a kid. And yeah. And most people during those days, that was in the early 80s, on a 15-year sentence, they'd spend between 3 and 5 years in prison, and I ended up spending 10 years. I failed to conform to institutional norms, is what they said, and I don't know, sometimes they'd wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell me to go mop the chow hall. It was massive. I said, you know, boss, I was having a good dream, and you interrupted that. And I'm gonna go back to sleep, try to catch up with that dream, and why don't you just go grab that mop and mop it yourself? What are you gonna do? I'm already in prison. I mean, what are you gonna do to me? Well, they'll mace you and beat you and throw you in solitary confinement for a few months is what they'll do, and you'll end up doing a lot more time on your sentences. Basically what will happen with that attitude. And I decided that I wasn't going to spend the time being assaulted by other inmates in one fashion or another. And yeah, when I was in the county jail, Guy that had been in prison a bunch of times told me, yeah, when you get in there, what you need to do is go find the biggest, baddest inmate you can find in that prison. And just walk up to him, bust him in the mouth, and show him what's what. Show him what you're about. Otherwise, you're going to have a rough time. So, yeah, my first day in prison, I did exactly that. And I found the biggest dude. He was pretty easy to find. The guy was massive. They called him Big Red. And, I was a brand new inmate. And, he was looking at me when I came in the dorm with my stuff, go to my bunk. So I thought, well, here's a perfect opportunity. And I just walked up to him, said, what the hell are you looking at? And hit him right square in the face. And he spent the next 10 minutes bouncing me all over that dormitory, all over those prison cells. And every time I saw him every day after that, whether it was in chow hall, whatever, I'd bust him upside the head with a metal tray. We would fight like dogs. That went on for months, and finally one day he said, you know what, we get kind of tired of this, and we ended up being real close friends after that. Didn't stop anybody else from trying to assault me, but yeah, I spent the first 5 years probably fighting just about every day. And I'm 6'8", about 245 pounds. I worked out every day in prison, in the weights, and I studied martial arts for a bunch of years. I'm actually a black belt. And yeah, it was no fun, but you make what you make do with what you have. Life is funny. I'll throw you a curveball now and then, but you either deal with it or you fold up and you're done. I've been out of prison since 1982. I never went back, and I've lived in dozens of different states, filled out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of job applications, never got hired once. And they ran a background check on me. One time I got hired for factory work. I was there for a couple of months. They actually made me shift supervisor and created a second night shift just for me. And background check came back, and I was let go the next day. And I was only hired one other time. That was in Denver for construction. I was the only ex-felon that company had ever hired, and they told me if I didn't work out, they would never hire another one. And so I had a lot riding on my shoulders then. So yeah, I worked there for about a decade. I rappelled off of ropes of a high, rise buildings, and did fire caulking, specialized work. When you make buildings over so many stories out of brick or stone, there has to be a separation between the